otherwise awkward prototypes have now become the latest new thing to buy for someone as a gift. See the photographic evidence of such displays in the figure in the accompanying PDF. Dawn, an anthropologist working in industry to inform technology development, mentioned that her local weekly newspaper, the Portland Mercury, had a cover story on health goths, a perplexing mix of youth emo subculture, dourness, and apparently Nike fuel bands. Goths are self-tracking? How on earth did that happen? As we struggled to imagine the incongruity of striving, athletic, all-black-clad goths, Dawn tripped, falling to the ground. When she tried to rise, we realized something was not right. Really, really not right. There, directly in front of the fancy San Francisco coffee shop that had been our destination, we waited for an ambulance while off-duty techies within waited for their siphon bar brewed coffees and quinoa breakfast salads. The thing about a broken kneecap is that it requires painkillers, a mix of them. It's a complicated cocktail of different pills on different cycles, with varying risks to the liver, breathing, and gut. A few hours after the first pill, Dawn takes another. Then a few hours later, she wonders, is it safe to take the next pill? She can't remember 2 pills back. And what of the daily allotment of the liver damager? It doesn't matter when you take that one, but it does matter how many you take per day. There is no keeping track in the head, and the pills themselves discourage clear-headedness. Having studied self-tracking for years, Dawn's instinct for how to solve this problem is to do some manual tracking. That is, writing things down without using a sensor to keep track automatically. She has an app on her phone where she can enter a number or some text, which is stored alongside a timestamp. She decides to enter the name of each medicine. When she views the record, she's able to count backward the hours since she took that kind of pill, keeping all the different cadences running, but not in her head. For the liver damager, she's less concerned about the hours since the last pill and more concerned about keeping the total pills she consumes for the day under the recommended number. So for those, she counts how many, not how long since. Some weeks later, she shows all this to a curious visitor. "Huh," he says, "I see why you did that, but I gotta say, I probably wouldn't have thought to do that myself." Dawn doesn't think she would have either, if she hadn't been writing this audiobook. In 2014, Gartner, a technology industry research group, put wearables at the top of their hype cycle, a widely followed index of Silicon Valley industry bloviation. By 2015, they had entered Gartner's trough of disillusionment, a phase full of doubt that they say precedes long-term adoption of a technology. Meanwhile, social scientists and philosophers joined in studying how wearables are being sold and used and began to point out their problems. They were particularly concerned about how scientific transparency was being glorified at the expense of other values, creating an illusionary reduction of human life to numbers. They began to worry that individuals were being asked to bear the burden of managing risks they had very little practical control over, a social dynamic they had seen in many, many other spheres of life. They raised concerns about the tremendous power given to already powerful corporations when people allow companies to peer into their lives through data. Self-tracking, social scientists and critics worried, gives far too much power to those who decide what is worth measuring and who measures up. Yet when Dawn's disaster struck, the ability to self-track was no longer just a topic of academic conversation or industry hype. It was something that mattered in a very practical and personal way. This ability was more than an object purchased off the shelves of a major retailer, but it was also that, too. Journalist Nora Young was perhaps the first to notice this key tension in self-quantification. Digital traces of our every move can lay the groundwork for terrible social consequences, such as rampant privacy violations, the commodification of daily living, healthism, the fetishization of anything and everything deemed healthy, and a preoccupation with the personal that erodes our capacity.